Hey guys, my name is Jim Merritt and I am with QuickTrainer in beautiful Wilmington, North Carolina. We are your QuickBooks and accounting experts. I have personally been doing QuickBooks consulting since 2001 and QuickTrainer has been in existence since 2006. And so as I'm taping this video, we're talking about 11 years for QuickTrainer and 16 years for me personally. QuickBooks Online, which I'm showing you today, has not been around as long, and but I have really fallen in love with this application, and I wanted to just take a few minutes to just kind of give you an introductory level of QuickBooks Online. I am not trying to cover everything in detail. I'm just trying to point out a few things here and there. So here we go. I'm not trying to make this polished. I'm just trying to point out some things for you. All right, let's get started. So when you first log into QBO, QuickBooks Online, also known as QBO, this is the screen you will likely see, likely greeted with. And this data is test data, so it's nobody's data that you're seeing. You won't be privy to any confidential information. Sorry about that. So let me just introduce you to what's going on over here. First of all, this is called the dashboard. Okay. This, and let me just close out these other windows real quick because we'll come back to some of that a little later. This, the banking area, is also known as the bank feeds. So what happens here, and before I go there, let me just point out one other thing there. Banking takes you to the bank feeds. You can also get to that same area by clicking here or here. So these are accounts that are connected via bank feeds, where these accounts are not connected. And you can see this one needs attention. The last update was 52 days ago, and that's just because I don't use this file that often. All right, so back at the bank feeds, what are we looking at here? So let's say you bank with Bank of America. You probably would name this account 1000 Bank of America. Maybe the last 4 digits of the bank account number would be in there. But you connect these accounts, and to add an account, you go here. And then you see some of the larger banks will appear here, but you can also type in the name of your bank and get to it. And then it's basically a matter of selecting your bank, and then it's going to ask you for your login credentials as if you were opening a browser and logging into online banking. Okay. Now, once it's connected, you never have to do anything else unless your password changes or unless your bank changes the way in which you log in. And nobody can see the credentials that you use to log in. Now, in this case, my bank, yeah, I do bank with this. No, I don't either. Actually, this is just a fictitious bank with some fictitious data. So we have 156 transactions that need our attention. Now, they can need our attention in lots of different ways. So first of all, before we even talk about that, let's just talk about the fact, don't ever lose sight of this. You can sort by the various columns here. I can assort ascending and I can assort descending. Okay? I can also sort by description. Now think of the description as this is what the bank knows the vendor as. Okay? It may or may not be absolutely correct. Sometimes you'll get some weird things in there that the bank knows the vendor as. And then the payee and the category or match column, I will tell you when you don't have a potential match or a rule applied, and we'll talk about what that means in a few minutes, you have really got to ignore oftentimes what the payee may say or the category or match column may say, because they can be really wrong. And there's a great example. Charter Communications. That is not gas and fuel. Okay, not sure about the algorithm that Intuit uses. Don't really care. Doesn't affect anything we're going to do. Chick-fil-A is not travel and entertainment. Yes, Coastal Car Wash does belong to an auto and truck expense, but that's not the right account. It belongs to a sub-account of that. So listen to me now and believe me later. You've got to ignore this column and this column oftentimes when it doesn't say rule or one similar record found allowing you to match. All right. Again, we can sort by category or match and get all of our potential matches and all of our rules together. And then we are left with transactions that QuickBooks Online simply doesn't understand what they are. Now, if it doesn't say rule or if it doesn't say that there is a similar record found, this means that QuickBooks simply does not know what this transaction is, and it is not in QuickBooks. Okay? There's at least a 99% chance that it's not in QuickBooks. There are a few exceptions to those rules. So it means that you need to either go out of this screen and go add these transactions, okay? Or you need to create what's called rules for these transactions. Now, let me illustrate that when it comes to things like, here, let's do this. Yeah, let's do checks. When it comes to things like checks, if it doesn't say there's a similar record found, okay, I'm not a big fan of trying to enter that check right from this screen. You can do that. Okay, I could go in here, and if I know who it's written out to and what category it belongs to, I can do it. I'm just not a fan of it. What I would rather see you do is come over here to the plus, and the plus is where you enter transaction data, and go to check. Now, what I like to do, instead of just left clicking on check and closing the window that's in the foreground right now and go into another screen, I like to right click and say open link in a new tab. All right, and then I'll just come over here anywhere and click just to close that window that was up there. All right, so again, if it doesn't say there's a similar check, do I have any that are checks? Let's see. Yeah, right here I do. So let's take check 1699, okay, and let's say that I know who it was written to and I know what date it was written on. So I'll go over here and I'll go ahead and put that check in, 114.42. I went there first just so I didn't forget the amount. And let's say that that check is written to Blue Cross of North Carolina, okay? And so we're going to post that to medical insurance and health insurance. And because I like spelling things right, I'll do that as well. All right, so 114.42, and what was the check number of that? 114.42. It was check 1699. So 1699. Okay. Now that check is in QuickBooks now. But when I come back over here and I look, it doesn't say there's a similar record found. Any guesses as to what needs to happen? You need to refresh this page. Okay, so I'm going to press F5, function 5, or I could also come up here and I could click there as well. So now it is refreshing this page, and we're going to come back and find that check 1699 has now, don't make a liar out of me, has now moved up to this area here, hopefully. I'll be disappointed if it hasn't. Check 1699. Where are you? All right. 114.42. Check 1699. It's making a liar out of me. I don't like that. So that's all right. Let's go look for 114.42. So up here, I can left click, and again, I'm going to right click on Advanced Search and say Open Link in New Tab. Close that. And then I'm going to come over here and put in 114.42. I'm just wondering if I did something weird. Check 1699, 114, 142. I think I found the issue. So this check, this date column right here is the date the check cleared the bank. Now look what I did when I put that check in there. I dated it 12/18. How can a check clear the bank before it's written? It can't. So that was my bad. If this cleared the bank on 11/8, let's just date it for, let's say it was written on 10/30. All right. And, well, it would help too if I actually went back to the check, to the right window. We're going to say 10/30 here. All right. Save and new. Let's go back to the bank feeds. Let's refresh our page, F5. And I am really optimistic that that check will be up there this time. Check. $16.99. Right there it is. Okay. So here's the deal. If I have a check like this right here, again, I'm not a big fan of entering it from here. I have much more control when I go to the check writing screen and enter it. And then when I come back and I see that it is one similar record found, and I'm just going to click on this one. Okay, I can see that there is a match. Check 1698, check 1698. This, I thought I said 1030, but 11/1, and then 11/1. So we can click match. Okay, now it's not adding that transaction into QuickBooks again. It is not. All it's doing is clearing it from the bank feed screen. Remember, a match says, I found you, and as soon as you click match, it disappears from the bank feeds. It does not add it again. What it does do is in the reconciliation screen, it puts a check mark by that transaction because it knows it already cleared the bank. So I would be looking at these and saying, okay, this is a deposit. I don't have to click here, but if I just want to make sure, I look and see, okay, this is a deposit. Okay, it's 12/7, and this is 12/7. Yeah, that's a match. Now, sometimes, and I don't have this example this time, but sometimes you might see it says 2 similar records found or 4 similar records found, and that's where you got to click and see what possibilities it found, and before you just click match without paying attention. So I'm gonna click match. All right, now rules. What are these rules? Okay, so we often have transactions that are repetitive in nature. We often have transactions that maybe we use our debit card, but we don't have the best habit of entering the transaction into QuickBooks right then. I'm not a fan of that. I am pretty much if I buy something in the morning, I'm pretty much going to enter it at least by close of business that day. That's just me. I do this for a living. Maybe I'm a little anal. Yes, okay. However, but you look for those opportunities that rules would apply to. So if I click by description, for example, I can get all my like transactions together, and all right, so I see one for AT&T. That's going to happen every month, so might as well create a rule. And so what this rule says is that put the vendor AT&T in there. Okay, remember the description is just what the bank knows about it, knows it as, and oftentimes the description and the payee will be one and the same, but not always. I want this to go to a general ledger account called 6720, which is a sub-account of general expenses. Let me show you that real quick. There's 6720 cell phone, and if I scroll up some, there's general expenses. So all of these are sub-accounts I would never want to post to the parent account. That's bad, okay? And then I've put a good memo. It's a little redundant. We know who AT&T is. It's already posted a cell phone, but I still put a memo in there that says cell phone bill. Now, I didn't have to type this in. I have a rule that's working to do this. Same thing for Amazon. I know that if I purchase something from Amazon, it's going to be office supplies. You may have the situation where it's not always office supplies. And those may not be candidates for rules, if that's the case. But not necessarily that won't always be the case. Let me see if I find one for, we'll use GoGas as an example. So right now, we don't have a rule created for GoGas. All right, now, if I go to GoGas, typically, I am buying gas, okay? But how about if I pull in the GoGas and, yes, I buy gas, okay, and I charge that to my debit card or credit card, and then maybe I pull up to the window and I buy a beverage as well. Well, I don't want GoGas for my beverage to be pointing to a gas fuel account. So here's what I can do. GoGas. I'm going to click on Bank Rules. And this is just a list of the current rules that I have. If you've never created a rule, when you first get to this window, you'll see like 3 rules, and those are just sample rules, and as soon as you create the first rule, they will go away, but these will not disappear unless I delete them. Alright, so we're going to click New Rule, and I'm going to call this Go Gas, and I will say Fuel. Now follow me here, okay? This is money going out, in other words, it's an expense as opposed to money coming in. And I want to apply it only to this account. Not that I would ever expect GoGas to show up in this account. But you can pick and choose which account or accounts you want the rule to apply to. And then I'm going to say, if you see the word GoGas, okay, so if the bank text contains GoGas, and then I'm going to add a line and say, hold on, I'm having one of those moments. Okay, and if the amount is greater than, and let's say I know if I get gas, it's going to be at least $15, right? So I'm saying if you see GoGas and the amount is greater than $15, then record that to the vendor, GoGas. I really don't remember if this was this or it had a space, so I'll do it like that for now. And I want it to go to gas, not natural gas, but gas/fuel with a memo that says gas. Okay? And I say save. So let's go see what that rule did. All right, so there it is. It applied the rule successfully because it was greater than $15. I hope that makes sense. So, taking that same logic, I could also create a rule that says if amount is less than, and maybe it's $10 or $5 or whatever, then put it to meals as a snack or something along those lines. All right, so getting back, if I sort by category or match, here are all my transactions that have a match. And I can just simply click these, and then perhaps I uncheck these. Okay, because I'm not ready to add those yet. But if I just want to narrow the amount of transactions on my radar screen, I can do this, right? Bear with me. Keep bearing with me. Maybe I should have checked all the ones that did say rules. You can't win them all, right? Yeah, I'm scrapping this idea. So let me get rid of those. But here, let me just do this. If I click here on these, and then I can come up here to batch actions and say accept selected, and all of those will now disappear, and I'm down to 141. I can also come over here and click add, 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 and add these like this. Okay. Now, to have this many transactions, it's a little overwhelming. And gosh, I have a client now that's just setting up QuickBooks Online, and they have, well, they started out with over 500 transactions. They're down, last time I looked, to around 160 transactions. But it's been a challenge. So my words of wisdom, you want to keep an eye, you want to stay on top of this, okay? Making sure that you review these transactions and get them handled, because there's one thing for sure, these transactions have cleared the bank, okay? And so, you know, when you're all said and done, you want this number and this number, if they don't match, to be at least really close. Because if they're not, that means something's off. Now, you could always have the possibility, you know, that there's transactions in QuickBooks that have not yet cleared the bank. If they haven't cleared the bank, then the bank doesn't know about them. Let me flip over to this 1030 account right here. You can see that there's 11 cents different, and that just comes from this transaction right here not being there. So if I add that, now these two account balances are in sync. Okay. Now this is a savings account, so it's not transaction heavy, and it would make sense that they would tend to be in sync. Again, unless I have maybe I've got some money that I'm moving over, you know, maybe from this bank to this bank, and I wrote a check and deposited here, and maybe they haven't recognized the deposit yet. All right. So enough about that. The next thing I want to show you is the chart of accounts. And what people often don't realize is there's a lot of work that goes into setting up a good chart of accounts. I am not appreciative of the account that Intuit, the makers of QuickBooks Online, rolls out. And no fault against theirs, but in 2001, when I first started doing this, the accounting firm I worked for, you know, they had a set chart of accounts, and I have always liked that chart of accounts, and I've tweaked it just a little bit over the years, but very little. And first of all, when you first set up QuickBooks Online, account numbers, this column right here, are not even turned on. It's a preference setting to turn it on. And when you turn it on, none of the accounts have numbers. And so I have a list that I use, you know, that shows these numbers that I add to it. Also, you know, when you see an account indented like this, it means it's a sub-account. So all of these are sub-accounts of this account. So as a result, you never post anything to the top level account. This is known as the parent account. These are known as sub-accounts or child accounts. In other words, a parent-child relationship. Well, everything gets posted to the sub or the child, and nothing gets posted to the parent. The parent is there to sum up everything. Now, chances are there's more accounts here than you'll need, and most accounts you can delete them. And the word delete is a little misleading. So for instance, if I delete customer refunds, if I go here and delete this account, if it'll let me, yeah, okay. It's not really deleted. It's still there, and I can even bring it back. So if I click on the gear and I say include inactive accounts, it'll show me all accounts that have been marked inactive. And so if I scroll down, here we go, make active. That's one account. That's, we've got several accounts here that I can make active. Customer refunds was the one I wanted to make active, so I'll make that one active, and now it's right back and can be seen again. And so I'll take include inactive out. But just to understand, there's a lot of thought that goes into setting up a good chart of accounts. I also like having account numbers because it means I can either type in the name of the account or I can type in the number of the account. It also lends itself towards organizing your reports in a more easier to follow fashion. So I like account numbers. I like the way these subs are set up in relation to the parent. And your CPA, the person who's doing your tax returns especially, or is doing tax planning with you, they're going to appreciate the thought and energy that went into this as well. So it's a win all the way around, to put this thought. So, but this, for me to set up a QuickBooks Online account and get it ready for use is about a 2-hour process. And it's things like this that go into that process. Also, I always create, or at least I try to always create, if you've never touched the My Custom Reports, by default, when you click on Reports, it's going to show you this. But I have set up some custom reports, and let me just give you a little bit of insight into what I do there. First of all, I want to make sure that a profit loss is reporting year to date. Now, there may be times when you just want to look at this month to date or last month, and that's fine. But I always have a saved report that shows me year to date. I also want to make sure that it's not showing rows that are zero amounts or columns that are zero amounts, because I could have more accounts here than what I've used, and I would see some zeros over here. I don't want that. Okay, if it doesn't have any balance, then I don't need to see it. In this case, I want to see it on an accrual basis. I'm not going to go into the difference between accrual and cash, not on this video. And I always customize it to say, if there's something in red, show it in red and put it in parentheses in red. So I don't know that I have anything in here in red. Tell you what we can do is, I'm pretty sure I can go to the balance sheet and find something in red. And I've done the same thing for the way I set up the balance sheet. Non-zero this year to date, and to show in red. And yeah, right there, there's one. Okay, so, if I saw that red in this case, because it shouldn't be red, I would be looking into it to find out what's going on. All right, finally, I'm going to wrap this up. It's quite a lengthy video. Hope it's held your attention, but I'm going to just show you a few more things. Under the plus, again, I pointed this out earlier, but you're going to find where you create transactional type data. An invoice is a transaction. A received payment is a transaction. Estimates, credit memos, sales receipt, refund receipts, delayed charges, delayed credits. I've actually never used these. Expenses. The difference between expense and check. I reserve checks for just those checks that are hard checks, i.e. they have a check number associated with them. Where expenses would be like a draft from your bank, a debit card purchase where there's not a hard check. And then, of course, a bill would be something that's posting to accounts payable to be paid later. So if you're creating bills, make sure you go to pay bills when it's time to pay those bills. Purchase orders and vendor credits, credit card credit. This is important. When you create an expense, if it's a credit card charge, you use an expense. If it's a credit card credit, you use credit card credit. Okay? If you have employees and you're doing payroll, and then over here on the other, if you're doing bank deposits or a transfer of funds or a journal entry, that's where you focus on those things. Under the gear, and you'll often hear that term, okay, click on the gear. Okay, you'll see things such as account and settings. Think of this as preference settings. Manage users. Who are your users that can log in? You know, this is where you would go to set them up and delete them, and etc. Your chart of accounts. And then here we have list type data. List type data would be the chart of accounts, but it would also be, let's just click because I'm drawing blanks. If you have a list of recurring transactions or a list of payment methods or terms, etc. And then here's where you go to reconcile and where you go to create budget. And there's a great audit log that you can always look at. If something's not right, you can see who was the user that caused it not to be right. I'm not saying to throw them under the bus and to bring them in the back and whip them. I'm just saying use it as a teaching opportunity, if you will. So you can find out, what happened, who was the user that caused it to happen, what date it happened, what time it happened. It's great. And if you ever want to submit feedback into it, here's where you can go to submit that feedback. Now, don't be concerned that your feedback's going into a blank hole, because I know that Intuit actually pays attention to the feedback that they get, and they have meetings with their program team to try to prioritize. Okay, is this suggestion worthy? Or is this a common theme that we're seeing in feedback? And and those get put in a more prioritized towards the top, the ones that are just commonly asked over and over and over again. And in feedback, it can be a bug fix or it can be an enhancement to the software. All right, guys, that's enough. 32 minutes at this point. I would say if you have any questions, call me. Yeah, if we can help you at QuickTrainer by any means, give us a call. We will be happy to talk to you about the fees that we charge for helping people. And we help people all over the United States and in a couple of cases in China and in Canada. Okay? And it's almost Christmas time as I record this video, so that may sound weird when it's June and hot outside, but Merry Christmas.